for your listening pleasure on SoundCloud and YouTube. The Podsters, episode 24. Hi, guys.
Welcome back, Podsters.
We have guests in the studio today, Kingsley and Penny.
That's our dogs. Just letting y'all know, in case you hear kind of
strange noises,
it's not us.
It's not the spirits.
Yeah, it's just our dogs.
Happy Memorial Day weekend, guys.
Yes.
Hope you're having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, this is really cool because right now it is what? It's 11:48 in the evening.
And we're running
Saturday.
a cast.
Yeah, and we're casting the pod.
Yeah, because we're having a nice little staycation.
Yeah, so we managed to have a few days off before and after the Memorial Day weekend. So, you know, today we decided to go out on a little adventure and drive out through the countryside to get some barbecue.
Barbecue was good, and it was an adventure.
It was delicious.
We decided to venture off the beaten track and not get to where we were going on the freeway.
Yeah.
So we ended up off-roading it almost. No, not off-roading it, but gravel-roading it for a while. White-knuckle gravel road.
That was like, what, at least 5 miles?
Yeah, it was.
That was horrible. It was 5 miles of gravel dirt road that we drove on because we didn't know where the hell we were going, and we followed a detour sign that didn't really mean anything. So,
but hey, I saw a UFO.
Oh yeah. I didn't see it, but he did.
Yeah, I think we should get a GoPro and do some vlogging when we adventure out.
Oh Lord, we're gonna be those people.
We are gonna be those people. It'll be fun for the podsters that check out YouTube.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, if you're that interested in the things that we do.
Well, we do some fun things, some ghost adventuring and stuff too.
Yeah.
And then, no, but I mean, I don't know if it's a UFO in the sense that it was unidentified.
Yeah.
But, yeah, when we were driving down the gravel road, I saw this, it looked like a shiny metal object in the sky that just kind of, boom, disappeared. And then when we kind of trekked back on the non-gravel road, but still a little off-road, I saw this crazy orb just form, shape, almost like a ball of glowing things that just went straight up in the sky.
That is weird.
And once we hit the road we were going to, there was how many? 6, I think at least, black SUVs.
Yes, and
barreling down the way there. So who knows? Maybe it was the Men in Black.
It was the Men in Black. They were out chasing that orb.
Well,
or the UFO.
I know for a fact that they're not called Men in Black, but there is such a thing.
Yeah.
So who knows? It was fun, though.
I think we watched too much Netflix documentaries.
You can't have enough of it. There's not such a thing as too much.
Oh my gosh. That brings me to the whole bullshit of the week.
Which is?
Capitalism.
Uh-oh.
It's bullshit.
How so?
It is the greediest of all greediest ways of civilization.
Agreed.
You know, and
just because you're honest and upfront about it doesn't make it any better.
Right. And so it's like the capitalists, I feel, aren't doing what, or technically, or capitalist government doesn't do what it should to stimulate the economy.
No.
And by that I mean, you know, raising minimum wages.
Uh-huh.
And possibly raising taxes to facilitate universal health care.
Right.
Right? And I mean, when I say raising the minimum wage, I'm talking about raising the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour, and that means that everybody everybody gets that extra.
Well, I mean, first off here, because I see people getting aneurysms here when you talk.
What it is capitalism stresses out the economy so much because they just try to deplete everything and reap the benefits of it, and they don't care about the people.
No, not at all.
That help them get there.
Well, not just that. I think first off, you have a mindset that's different here than other places in the world from the people that are millionaires, which is kind of, they worked hard for their money.
Right, that's understandable.
Which it is, but it's coming from where I come from, and I know a lot of wealthy people in Sweden. Mm-hmm. And the mindset is different. These people don't mind, quote unquote, giving away some of their money for the greater good of the nation, as in getting people good health care for cheap, getting children good education. Mm-hmm. Whereas here, it's all about the bling. Like you make a bunch of millions, and then you're supposed to have
buy like summer houses, vacation houses, or whatnot.
Yeah, you need 5 houses. You need Rolls Royce and Bentleys. Yeah.
An entourage and
whereas the people I know that make that kind of money, they live quote unquote modest, and it's not about having diamond encrusted switch plates in their house and stuff.
I do have a feeling that there are a few people out there in the US that are like that as well, but for the most part, I guess it's commercialized to the point where if you make a lot of money, you gotta, you kind of
gotta keep up with the rich Joneses, I guess. But it's that mindset, I think, that hinders and halters things. And I mean, progression here is scary too, because basically, people, let's face it, whether you like what we're saying or not,
right?
The U.S. loved being stuck in the 50s with the image of a housewife and one breadwinner, the American dream. Here's the big kick for you. To have the same standard of living as back in the 60s, minimum wage in this country should be $20 an hour. Think on that.
$20 an hour?
Yes. To be able to maintain that American dream lifestyle of the 60s with a housewife and the wife staying home to take care of the kids.
Yeah, there was a lot of that back in the day.
Yeah, and to be able to have those 2 cars you need. Mm-hmm. And only have one person, the man, usually.
One income?
Yeah, one income. Minimum wage would have to be $20 an hour. With the way inflation has gone, even though the U.S. denies to have inflation, just look at the thing that once a year or twice a year prices of groceries, etc., actually goes up. Even though you don't say it outright, that is called inflation. The problem is that the wages haven't followed that trend.
Right.
There's nowhere in the United States it could live off of $7.25 an hour.
It's impossible. I mean, unless you live like a hermit, and more than likely you live with your parents.
Well,
or live with somebody. I mean, I've seen so many people that make more than minimum wage, and they still can't afford to have they can't afford to not have like a roommate,
right,
and stuff.
But it all boils down to corporate greed, because basically whatever we're looking at here, whether it be groceries or more luxury items like TVs and cars, etc. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how a country that has 7 or 8% sales tax, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And some states don't have a state tax.
Like Texas.
Like Texas, for instance. How come all these items cost the same as countries that have 25% sales tax and pay the workers of those countries way more than here. There must still be profit in it, because otherwise the companies wouldn't sell their products, right?
Right. And then, you know, what that means is that, you know, they're paying their citizens, or they're paying the people there enough to sustain a living and not have to stress out about, you know, paying their electric bill and stuff like that, or having to decide on whether or not to, you know, give their kid a bike, or I don't know. You know what I mean? It's
right. But that's the problem here, that everything should be manufactured or worked for cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And come on, people, think about it for 2 seconds, because most of you guys that are opposed to what we're saying aren't millionaires. You're regular average Joes who have been told that it's great that some people make nothing and have to live on welfare, but they shouldn't be entitled to welfare anyways. And you guys barely make ends meet. For what? So that you can make your boss have those 5 houses?
Yeah.
And you dream that one day you will be that boss. But it doesn't happen to most people. And here's the thing, just like Michelle said, the trickle-down effect that everybody's talking about isn't happening.
No,
it's not stimulating the economy enough. Because when you're barely making ends meet, you can't afford to buy luxury items. Whereas people in other countries that make a lot more than here is stimulating their economies by buying new stuff way more frequent.
Yeah, because
I don't know people that sit around and wait.
They have the disposable
right,
income.
because there is a disposable income, and that is what really stimulates the economy. Think about it, guys. If more people would go to Walmart or wherever the hell you go to buy your stuff, and you bought new TV every, 2-3 years? Because they get technologically more advanced.
Yeah.
If everybody did that all the time, that would be the effect. That would really stimulate the economy. You would sell more products to people that didn't necessarily need it, but they want it, and they can afford to buy it. That would really stimulate the economy.
And businesses wouldn't go under because they're reaping the benefits of the economy being stimulated, such as Gibson and what is the other one?
Guitar Center?
Guitar Center.
Right. No, you're absolutely right.
They wouldn't go bankrupt because there would be people that have the income to just say, I feel like buying a guitar today. Let's go take a look.
Right. I mean, let's be honest about it. You would probably buy more jewelry and fancy makeup.
Right.
And I would probably, if we had those kind of means, yeah, I would probably buy one Gibson guitar a year if I could. These days, we have to scrounge and save up money. And we'll never get to that point. I'm lucky if I can buy a maybe guitar in the range of $700 to $1,000 every other year.
Yeah.
Now, think about it, guys. If I could buy something that's 3 times more than that every year, that would, like you said, stimulate these places. And that, in general, would stimulate the economy. If people could afford to go out and eat out more or go to the barber shop more, that would make the barber more money. And the barber would be able to go buy his lunch instead of bringing it, which would stimulate the restaurant. And if the waitress there could go and buy a new car every 5 years, let's say.
Yeah.
Because that's a big purchase.
Yeah.
Instead of driving around a 25-year-old car, praying every day it doesn't break down. That would stimulate the economy.
Exactly.
So actually, by paying employees more, the economy would not go under. That's bullshit. Most people would not sit around and save up money trying to become millionaires. They would be happy to spend that money, which would make us also less dependent on foreign interests, such as tourism. Because let's face it, a lot of places in the U.S. is really dependent on foreign tourists coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if we could stimulate our own economy, that would just be like, what's it called? Icing on the cake. The tourist money would be the icing on the cake, and everybody else would stimulate their own economy.
Right.
So paying people more would not be a bad thing. It would actually be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we're calling capitalism
bullshit.
Woo!
Which poses another question.
It's kind of the same vein, because I heard someone, I was really surprised that person would have this attitude, but it poses the question of,
should art be self-sustainable, or meaning, can art carry its own? Can an artist claim to be an artist and carry their own and make money without being basically a sellout?
Or subsidized by the government? Should the government step in and help art, or should it have to be self-sustainable from the get-go?
And that person said that, it has to be commercialized in order for it to be sustainable.
Yeah, and my answer to that is no. I don't think that art necessarily, at least not from the get-go, should have to be self-sustainable. Simply because the art itself that way becomes really stale.
Yeah. Commercialization of art really kind of, I guess, what's the word that I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
It cheapens it.
Well, yeah, it cheapens it, and it makes the quote-unquote viable art...
ruins the integrity of the art.
Yes, it completely ruins a lot of integrity, and the art that quote-unquote lasts, or being hailed as art, is for the most part cheap copies of other people's work.
Exactly.
And so to me...
a lot of that is... in the music industry today, as far as taking old music and mixing it to make it their own, or just buying the rights to that song and turning it into a piece of shit because they made it a rap song or something. Or
the few people that do something quote unquote original, and I mean that as in not making a cover of an old song. They still burp up stuff that whatever is number one on the Billboard at the time did. That they're becoming copies of what's already successful at the time.
Following the commercialized.
Yeah, you got to follow that stream.
Track.
And at that point, there's nothing interesting to be done. And once again, we know that you guys are out there that are trying to do original stuff,
your own thing,
but what we're saying is that we would like you guys to be able to do that and make a living out of it, not having to do it on the weekends.
Yeah, or after work or whatever. And you could still call yourself a musician.
Yeah, or an artist.
Right.
I mean, it's the same with, if you want to look at printed media today, the way you can make something out of it is basically by putting your art on t-shirts.
Right.
Or woven, like all this kind of, coffee mugs and woven baskets and whatnot.
And I mean, that's what I've seen in a lot of these little, I guess, hipster art studios and stuff like that.
Right.
Some of these artists have really good ideas, and some of them are kind of cruddy, but in the sense, the ones that actually have the decent art there, they have to sell out by printing their art on t-shirts, on hats, making postcards or prints of their work, which is fine because they're distributing their artwork, but it really does cheapen the art when you do it that way.
And honestly, not just that. Even those guys have they tend to do that piece of their art as lowbrow art. And I see a lot of influences by Coop and Vince Ray, for instance. And those artists are they had their heyday 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And people are still burping up the same concept. Even though they put an original spin on it, it's a burp of the same style when, because you can see that some of their truly original artwork isn't even in the lowbrow section. That they're actually doing something completely different.
Yeah.
But they can't sell that. So they have to focus on being these cheap copies of other people's success. And yeah, same thing as we said with the music industry. If you want to make a living out of it, you kind of got to burp up something that other people have done. It's like, name an interesting artist, musical artist from the US within the past 5 years. I can't think of anyone.
Well, when you asked me that question initially, I kind of thought of because I'm not into the commercial mainstream music and stuff like that. But I mean, I do still keep an ear out. And the only thing that really pops out to me is Bruno Mars.
Which is a cute little Michael Jackson clone.
Right. But he still entertains on the stage. His music, I mean, is okay. I mean, it's catchy.
Okay, so I'll let him slide. I'm not going to argue him. So you have one interesting artist in the whole of the United States within the past 5 years. Yeah. Now let's jump to a country that actually subsidizes art. How many interesting new acts?
Wait a minute. What country are you talking about?
For simplicity, let's talk about Sweden.
Okay.
A country with 8 million people living there. And how many interesting new acts the past 5 years come from Sweden? I honestly can't even count them because there's so many in different musical genres that I don't even know about. But I can count it in just sort of rock and roll.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, let's start name dropping. Imperial State Electric, Dead Lord, Honeymoon Disaster, Spiders, Graveyard. Let's stop there.
And there's always been a lot of Swedish influence in music, even in the past. I mean, I'm trying to think of the Swedish artists that, the Hives? Is it the Hives? They're from Sweden?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The Cardigans?
The Cardigans, yes. What is that? Ace of Base?
Ace of Base?
Okay, I mean, I'm not... These are just a few of the Swedish bands that I kind of remember or whatever. But if you think about it, that's a lot of influence dating back from maybe for me, more like 1990. But I'm sure there's a lot more in the past. Who else is older from Sweden?
I mean, start with the obvious ABBA.
ABBA, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Roxette.
Oh yeah, Roxette. I loved Roxette.
Eagle Eye Cherry. I mean, if you want to go to really broad mainstream.
Eagle Eye Cherry, and then what's his sister's name? Nena Cherry.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that back in the 80s.
Yeah, that was late 80s with her
music.
The Buffalo Stance.
Yeah, and wasn't that group D-Light from Sweden?
No, they're from Holland, I think.
Okay.
But it works the same way.
way.
The whole thing is, though, that why is that? Why can't we come up with one interesting artist from the U.S. where art has to be commercial from the get-go versus a million bands from different genres from a different country? Well, basically because the government subsidizes art in Sweden. As in, you can get, it's almost like grants. Well, you don't get it cash up front, but they subsidize rehearsing spaces for artists.
That's cool.
So I think when we back when we played and rehearsed, I think we paid $120 a month for a big rehearsing space, 24-hour a day access. One band, so you didn't have to share it with 10 other bands. We could come and go however we pleased, any day, any time of the day, for $120 a month. Now, stuff like that those kind of subsidizes. There's other ways too.
A hairstylist can't even like rent out a booth to cut hair here for $125 a month.
Well, I'm sure it's a bit more now because this was back in the 90s.
Yeah, true. Okay.
But still, you had that. You have sort of festivals where the local, I guess, governments go in to like sponsor these rock festivals with the equipment and stuff, and put together almost like a display case for people to see the acts and stuff. Now, what does that lead to? That leads to creativity and freedom in creativity. You don't have to look at what's hot on the billboard. You can kind of carve your own niche into...
You as an artist has the time and the ability to sit there and work on your art / music or whatever.
Right. Because the same goes for artists in graphic form too. There's subsidized actual art studios where they can paint.
And they also subsidize movies.
Yes. So with all that, you get the freedom of really refining your niche of whatever art it is. You really can get your own style.
Yeah.
And with that comes the fact that hopefully in the long run, if you stick to it long enough, you actually do become commercially viable. Maybe not a millionaire, and I'm not talking about winning Grammys and being number one on the Billboard, but enough to where you can...
Sustaining a living.
Yes, to where you can sustain a decent living by creating art in one way, shape, or form.
Right.
So... the actual original subsidies you get go, same thing there. It trickles into the economy. You get to be an artist making your living by creating art that becomes mainstream but didn't start off as a bleak copy of what's hip at the moment.
Yeah.
And that in turn stimulates the economy too, because you will go on tour. You will employ people working on that tour.
Right, exactly.
You will get those local businesses that host the events. A lot of people coming there. So they might sell a lot of beer, which is good for a bar or club. Mm-hmm. Hence, you are actually giving back. And then the bars or
clubs afterwards, people go to an event and then they go out afterwards or whatnot.
So you're actually contributing to stimulating the economy.
Whatever festivals that they do have brings in not only the community, but other people
from elsewhere that travel to these festivals. Yes, so the little subsidies you get to begin with, in the long run, actually helps boosting the economy. And I think what movies, for instance, I know that a lot of places in Europe, what they do is different lottery commissions. A lot of that money is being put into movies.
And that's sad because I compared it to here. And what does the lottery commission pretty much give to? They have to give to the schools, and it's like it goes to the schools and roads. I'm not sure if it goes to anything else. I can't remember.
First off, I highly doubt that all of the proceeds go to it, considering the shape of the roads and stuff. There's been
complaints that not all the proceeds go to
what it should.
Education here.
And then when it goes to education, I'm pretty sure that it doesn't go to any art education, but sports.
The lottery commission shouldn't subsidize education here.
No.
It should be the government, our taxes, paying for this education. The sad thing is, the education is hurting right now because there's no funding.
Right.
Schools are closing.
I guess I can see that that's a good thing right now, that the lottery money goes towards that. But when it comes to, if you look at an American movie or a TV series, to me, it's a lot of the same burp up. It's rarely really original.
Yeah.
It's a burp up of what was the last season's hit.
Yeah, it's kind of like there was Roseanne, and then there was that American Housewife. And they're kind of similar in how they act. And then, what is it, The Real O'Neills? That was a different concept.
Yeah, they tried.
It was really, I kind of thought it was cool in the sense that they were being outright forward about the kid's sexuality and stuff.
Yeah, it was a little bit different.
And it was comical, it was funny, and it was definitely different, and I couldn't imagine why or how people thought that this show was going to last a season.
No, I don't know. But even with that, it's like it's the same.
Then what did they do? Like a few seasons after that, is they started up with that living together, married or whatever, or separated together, or something like that. And it's the same damn concept, but they don't have.
But even when they alter the concept
children.
a bit, to me, it's like the way they comment these shows, these sitcoms, regardless of if they have something new, it's kind of the same format. It's kind of the same jokes that has been burped up since the 90s. Because that is what is commercially viable. Whereas in other places, it's a free form. You're allowed to maybe fail.
Right.
And that makes those movies and series more interesting because they don't follow the quote-unquote Hollywood concept.
Yeah, there's been some interesting movies and stuff like that come out of Sweden, and of course one of my favorite movies that comes out of New Zealand.
Yes, What We Do in the Darkness.
Oh no, is it? Yeah.
Or What We Do in the Shadows.
No, I think it's What We Do in the Dark.
But yeah,
or something like that.
But I mean that's a movie that would never have been made in the U.S.
No,
because the format and concept is completely different.
Yeah.
And then what's sad is that once they're hits, they become American remakes. There's a lot of movies that are claimed here to be original that are actually based on a lot of Swedish and French movies.
Really?
Yeah, are turned into Hollywood stories.
Huh, that's interesting.
But once again, the thing is that they're more interesting overseas because you don't have that pressure of, if you're making a movie, it has to generate $300 million. They're allowed to tank. Some of them,
it's just like all these Marvel movies that are coming out. It's like one right after the other, and they have to be like opening at like $1 billion. You know what I mean? Their first day has to open at $1 billion.
Right. And that doesn't make for interesting art.
No.
So
I'm sure what they do is art and stuff like that, but it's not very...
No, but once again, I'm not saying that it's not art, but I'm saying it's not very interesting art because once again, it's the same concept being burped up
over and over
and over again. You get one popular horror movie, for instance, and that's funny too because they tend to come out of Japan or something. But then you get and then they get Americanized. And it becomes a success. And then the 10 following horror movies is pretty much the same thing.
Right. Like, what was that one with the little girl that was possessed?
The Ring?
No. It was a British movie first. We saw it first, like, on Netflix. The original was done in Britain or whatever.
Are you talking about The Conjuring 2?
Yeah.
No, that was first of it was a British documentary, and then was a British movie, and then they turned it into The Conjuring 2 here.
Yeah, and I was like, seen it.
Yeah, because we've seen all these possession movies, American Hollywood possession movies, and it burps up the same thing that has been done since The Exorcist, because that was obviously a hit. And once again, let's play it safe.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the danger with saying that art should carry itself.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bit hypocritical too, because sports sure as shit don't carry itself.
No.
And don't freak out here, you sport nerds. NBA, this and that. Yeah, but sports actually gets a lot of funding starting off in schools. So it, in a sense, is subsidized to begin with. And from there, you can build on, and it becomes commercially viable standing on its own. But it's thanks to that help these athletes get from the government to begin with at a young age.
And that's why all the schools spend so much money on their athletics.
Right.
Instead of buying books for the kids that need books.
Right. But if we could all agree on a little bit of money going art's way, would make all art a little bit more interesting than what it is right now. Because most of the stuff that I see here it's been burped up for at least it's mindless, and it's been burped up for the past 20 years. It's just alterations of what was popular 20 years ago. Food for thought, guys.
Yeah. Let us know what you think.
Yes, please comment on this.
Yeah.
We do want to know your opinions and input about it.
And you can always send us an email message. We can send out a shout out if you want. You can remain anonymous.
You can go to our Facebook page and post a comment there too.
Yeah, Facebook. You can comment on YouTube as well.
Yep. I think you can comment on SoundCloud too.
And yes, you can comment on SoundCloud as well. So,
or if you're really careful there with your identity, shoot us an email at thepodsters@gmail.com, and that's thepodsters with a Z.
With a Z.
Until next time, guys. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Have fun, but be safe.
Yes. Have a good weekend. Have a happy holiday. And like he said, be safe. Bye, guys.
Bye.